I signed for them after the Euros. After my first day's training, I was driving home. I was actually thinking, regretting what have I done? Like I walked into a circus.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Steve, good morning to you.
Morning, Ger. Morning, Eoin.
You're on the rack today. You've got to tell us whether or not there's any credibility about the rumours that we're hearing.
Questioning my credibility, I think, Ger.
Big shoes to fill. Phil Egan and various others. Even Nathan has managed to come out of this unscathed. So let's get started. Manchester United. We're starting with an easy one. Man United are close to agreeing personal terms in principle for a 5-year contract with Jadon Sancho, as discussions continue at an advanced stage with Borussia Dortmund over the structure of the transfer fee. The end of a very long-running saga. It turns out they've been having these conversations for about 6 months at least. Will Jadon Sancho be the man to kick Manchester United on next season? How will his arrival impact Mason Greenwood's progress?
Well, he's competition for Mason Greenwood, isn't he? And that's what a club like Manchester United expect to have, I suppose, at their peak, when they had the likes of Andy Cole, Dwight Yorke, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, Teddy Sheringham all competing for, I say at one of their peaks under Alex Ferguson, battling for a place there. And you know, United have always been a club with exciting attacking players, and to say that, well, they're not going to sign him just because it might put the noses out of joint of Marcus Rashford and Mason Greenwood and Jesse Lingard, some of those young players. Jesse not so young anymore, but I just think it's exactly the kind of player United want to sign, exactly the kind of competition that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer will want to see in his squad for next season. He's obviously got Anthony Martial there as his lead striker as well. So he's also giving himself the options of having a couple of players maybe who can play in the attacking three behind the main striker. We know Rashford can flip between two roles. Sancho, we know, can play on both wings. Daniel James is there. He can play in both wings as well. Martial, if needs be, he can drop from main striker to left winger. So they've got a number of options then if they bring in a player like Jadon Sancho. And look, he's proved himself. He left Manchester City under a cloud. They brought him in. They've invested a lot of money for a young player of his age at the time from Watford, and it didn't go to plan. And it was because he was such a hungry player. He wanted to get games with Manchester City. He was promised time in the senior squad. I know there was a falling out then. He didn't turn up for training, and perhaps that was just the folly of youth. He made a bad mistake. He shouldn't have done that, but I suppose it does indicate the kind of hunger and desire that he has to compete at the top level and to do well. And he's gone on to Borussia Dortment. Yeah, absolutely, it did. He went to Borussia Dortmund. He won his place there. He's scored in double figures over the last couple of seasons. His assists have been excellent, and in a league which is of a high standard, So I definitely think this is a great deal for Manchester United, and it's definitely going to happen.
Yeah.
It is without doubt. Now, the other thing, just an interesting aside here, Ger. I know there's going to be talk of a certain goalkeeper, perhaps in the next couple of minutes, but I just think it's interesting to see the players that Manchester United are signing. And I've been on speaking to you before about Jack Grealish and how reluctant I would have been to say that he will sign for United. But the more I think about it, in the context of what's going to happen with the Premier League over the next season and a half, we know the whole Brexit thing is going to have an impact on the Premier League, and the FA have already spoken about bringing in new rules with regards to the amount of homegrown players that Premier League clubs must have in the squad. And it's just interesting to see United's transfer policy. They seem to be going for a lot of England, either internationals or prospective internationals. They've got a squad there of a lot of English players. Like you look along the back line, they've got right back in Wan-Bissaka, left back in Luke Shaw, Harry Maguire centre half. They've got Scott McTominay, who qualifies as a homegrown player. Then their front line, then Marcus Rashford, Mason Greenwood, Daniel James, bringing in Jadon Sancho. I think this is interesting if you look at it in that context.
Yeah, look, it's a good point, and it kind of brings me nicely to the goalkeeper. The issue that we're talking about here is rumours about perhaps Kasper Schmeichel being one of their targets. He's 33 at this stage. Obviously, a long history with the club. There's that famous footage of himself and who was the kid? Who was the other kid? Was it Alex Bruce?
No,
Yes,
it was
Alex Bruce, wasn't it?
I thought it was Tom Ince, wasn't it?
Maybe it was Tom Ince. It could have been all three of them playing football as kids, celebrating their father's success. So this is pretty interesting. He clearly has the self-confidence to play for. Is he good enough?
Oh, absolutely. He's been one of the best and most consistent keepers in the Premier League over a number of seasons now for Leicester City. I was just checking his stats there over the last few years. Like, he's got incredible statistics over the last. I think he was definitely among the top clean sheets for last season. I was trying to pick that out individually, but his record over the last few seasons has been excellent. He's been the spine of that Leicester City team, the team that won the title. So he's got league title winning experience. He's played now in the Champions League with Leicester City, so he's got that experience as well. As you say, he's 33 years of age, so he's not going to be a first choice. I would imagine if a player like him, I'd imagine he does get quite angry with reporters when they start bringing up his dad, and he doesn't like those comparisons. And I can understand that he wanted to carve out his own career without any comparisons to his dad. But I think it might be a nice bookend to his career to finish off at the club where his dad had so much success, and possibly to compete for that number one role, because he will end up playing in the Champions League with Manchester United this season, and they will be competing for the Premier League title. I'm not sure if Leicester City definitely aren't going to be in the Champions League. They're going to be in the Europa League. Whether they're going to challenge for the Premier League title next season, I'm not so sure if they can do as well as they did last season, especially if they have a bit of a clear. There's talks of Ben Chilwell going to Chelsea. If he's gone, that would be a big blow for them. So I just don't know if Brendan Rodgers can get that Leicester City team competing for the Premier League as well as they did last season. So if you're Kasper Schmeichel, 33 years of age,
Now's the time.
Now's the time to get out a swan song.
Give me a credibility. Give me a credibility rating out of 10.
I think this could be a 7.
Okay. We got to talk briefly about Chris Smalling here. We've done a bit on Chris Smalling a little bit earlier on. The view earlier was that once you're out, you're out. But he's played really well. He's only 30. He is English, as you're saying. So the value of him and what he's done at Roma has suddenly come up a little bit. There's a possibility that they might try and use him in a make-weight deal for Skriniar at Inter. Yeah. What? Give me the most likely scenario here. Smalling back at United and still there next season. Smalling at Roma at a cut-down, almost nothing fee because they don't want to pay any money for him, and that might just be negotiations, or he is actually something that Inter go, yeah, we'll take him.
Yeah, well, there seems to be a number of clubs in Italy, and even Juventus have been linked with Chris Smalling. I think he was one of those players where Solskjaer was praised for the big clear-out at Manchester United, that he got rid of a lot of dead wood over the last 12 to 18 months. I think Chris Smalling was one of those players. He just doesn't want to have him back. Himself alongside Phil Jones will be two of the most maligned players at Old Trafford. I just can't see, despite the fact that he is in England international, former England international, he's an English player, I just don't think he's got that quality that Solskjaer needs. It's one of the areas of the field where he needs to strengthen, not just to bulk up. He needs to actually get better players in that position, not just have squad players in that position. The feeling at Roma was he was playing in a back three with Roma, in the heart of that Roma defence. They conceded 55 goals in Serie A last season, which was pretty poor. Roma at the moment as well are up for sale, so they're a club in a bit of flux at the moment. I think that Milan Skriniar would be the better option. I will totally admit I haven't seen a huge amount of him playing for Internazionale this season. I did actually see him playing in person, would you believe, Ger? I went over to see Inter play against Barcelona in the Champions League last December, and I have to say he didn't stand out one bit. Barcelona played a second-string team. They won 2-1. It was a nothing group game. It was the sixth group game of the campaign. So, they were dead and buried at that stage. But he is very highly rated. He's only 25 years of age, so just coming into his peak years. And if you're going to have a couple of overseas players in your squad, what I've read about him, he's very highly rated. And Inter as well had the best defensive record in Serie A last season, 36 goals they've only conceded. They were best defence by a long shot. So I think bring it in. If you're going to get, I think Skriniar would probably be the better option there for United.
Okay.
Try and use Smalling in it, make way. Perhaps maybe send to Juventus and use that money to buy Skriniar.
Okay, so give me out of 10. Likelihood of Skriniar being at United for the start of the season or by the end of the transfer window?
I'm going to give that one a 9, I think.
All right. All right, so you think it's very likely. Okay. Let's move on to Liverpool. Thiago Alcantara. Apparently, Liverpool have moved ahead of Paris Saint-Germain and are now very likely. This has been bubbling away for quite some time. Not somebody that everybody agrees is ready-made for Liverpool. On one side, I think John Giles was like, why do they need him? And then I think Kenny was like, absolutely get him in. Maybe I've misrepresented Kenny, I'm not sure, but certainly there's a debate to be had about this. Is he going to improve Liverpool, and is this definitely going to happen?
Yeah, it's a funny one because he's a playmaker, isn't he? I'm not sure if he's got that... I suppose when we think of the Liverpool team under Jurgen Klopp, very energetic, pacey kind of style, attacking style. And I don't know if he's that kind of player that you would expect to slot in there. Then again, we've seen Klopp buying players that you wondered about, the likes of Andy Robertson and Gini Wijnaldum, even going back to, players like those who you maybe wondered would they slot into a kind of a Klopp system. But he was able to. Klopp is all about coaching, isn't he? And he's able to coach players into playing the way he wants them to play. So if Klopp feels Thiago is the kind of player that he needs, I'm kind of curious about just his age. Like, he's 29, he's pushing 30 years of age. Liverpool have a few players like that. Jordan Henderson, Wijnaldum, we've already mentioned. And I just wonder, maybe they should be looking at younger players. But look, it does seem like it's, all the reports around Europe. I know Raphael Honigstein has been talking about the Sky Sports that he believes it's a deal that's been on the verge of being done. So I definitely have to give this a 10 out of 10.
Okay, all right. Let's talk briefly about Arsenal. So Arteta is apparently targeting Sevilla's 27-year-old Brazilian centre-back, Diego Carlos, in talks, apparently personally, with even Rakitic, even though Rakitic is 32. But you can see how somebody like Rakitic would certainly bring a little bit of stability to that midfield. Apparently they're also interested in Zaha, who's 27 and probably is less expensive this year than he would have been in previous years because there's a bit less hype about him. Willian is obviously available on a free, and they'd have to give him a 3-year contract despite the fact he's 31. Coutinho, we know there's some cut-price loan deal on the table, and Thomas Partey they've also been linked with. So a huge amount at the moment. Given the progress Arteta is making, should the board just back him and give him whatever he wants?
Well, look, they didn't qualify for the Champions League, which is a disaster really, if you're trying to dip into the transfer market. We know, say, you look at Manchester United, they've had their debt problems, but they've qualified for the Champions League now, so they can start making deals, even paying them off over a couple of seasons in the hope that they will qualify for the Champions League for the next couple of seasons. Arsenal aren't there yet, but they do need to invest in players maybe who have that experience of playing in the Champions League and who can possibly, help them mount some sort of a title challenge, or even to get into the top 4, to get into the Champions League for subsequent seasons. So I can see why they're going down the route of perhaps getting a few more experienced players. Like there was talk of Bellerin, who's only 25. He was maybe looking elsewhere. If he sees them bringing in experienced players like the likes of Willian and Marte from Atletico Madrid, he might start going, well, I'll hang around maybe for another season. The likes of Kieran Tierney, we've seen how brilliant he can be. He started to do really well. So the younger players like that, Callum Chambers as well at the back, Rob Holding, who maybe need some experience around them. Granit Xhaka even to a certain extent, he's still, Lucas Torreira as well. So I think Willian is just a no-brainer. Get him in, give him the 3-year contract. I've seen him playing in Paris. This guy is just so fit for a 31-year-old. He's definitely got 3 seasons in him. I think the likes of Amarte, absolutely, he's a really steely, that kind of gritty kind of player that Arsenal probably need, Regards to Diego, the young Sevilla centre back, I don't know. Is he going to bring that kind of experience that they need? But I definitely think the likes of Willian. Who else did you mention?
Rakitic.
There was another player.
Rakitic,
absolutely, yeah, absolutely, brilliant footballer, really experienced. He's played for Barcelona in the Champions League. Absolutely, if you can get these kind of players. Coutinho's another one as well for Arsenal. I think if they're looking at their budget, if they get Coutinho in the loan deal, absolutely go for it. Try and get him in, even get him in on a season loan with a view to buy once that's over. Coutinho's 28 years of age. He's still got a good 4 or 5 seasons in him. Willian's not going to cost a huge amount as regards to transfer fees and that kind of thing.
Yeah,
so
actually, you can transform the texture of the squad in the dressing room and the atmosphere in the dressing room by signing Rakitic, Coutinho, and a couple of others, Willian, who are old and have experience, and actually give those young players a little bit of steeliness. Oh, and I know we've been talking about the Alexis Sanchez to Manchester United and the amount of money that they paid, and Coutinho I know he's a replacement for Mesut Ozil. He would be getting the same amount of money. But actually, on a loan deal, if it doesn't work out, you just cut your losses and it's fine. So as an Arsenal fan, would you feel a little bit happier with that, and that actually maybe this is one of those risks that you just need to take if you're going to try and escalate yourselves back into that top four?
I would have thought so. I'm not sure if I'm with Steve on the Willian thing, though. I think the 3-year contract is a bit of a stretch, to be honest. Like, no guarantees that at 34 years of age, Willian will still be value for that money. I think that on a one-season deal, it would be a perfect situation for Arsenal. He's probably not going to sign unless he gets a 3-year deal, so that's the risk you're going to take. Like, obviously, with the Coutinho situation, there was talk of paying a £20 million loan fee, and there was that hilarious story last week that actually Matteo Guendouzi could be offered instead of £20 million, which would be a win-win-win for Arsenal. If it doesn't come with too much of a financial strain, Philippe Coutinho will be a fantastic asset to that Arsenal squad. My issue with Coutinho is the financial muscle that Arsenal may need to show in order to get him to play even one season. So it won't be as straightforward as the Dani Ceballos move, for example. So that would be the really big concern I have there. And now the Mesut Ozil situation as well, which is Arsenal's version of the Alexis Sanchez contract, except for the fact that Ozil is probably going to milk Arsenal for another year. Yeah,
pay him off, whatever it takes to pay him off to get him out, to get the bad smell from everybody. That guy's still getting paid more than I am, and he's still sitting. That doesn't work in the dressing room. Last one, James McCarthy is being linked with Villa, Leeds, Newcastle, and West Ham. Apparently, this was from a scenario last season where we weren't sure if James McCarthy was going to play in the Premier League again. Even at Christmas, he hadn't played that much, and then back in the team, back looking fully fit again. Most of the injury worries behind him. He's only 29. He's got incredible levels of experience. What do you think? Should McCarthy get a move? Do we want him to get a move?
Well, I think it depends with Crystal Palace and what their next step is regards to their manager. I think if Sean Dyche is coming in there instead of Roy Hodgson, if I was James McCarthy, I'd hang around. But if Crystal Palace are keen to sell, I see that they want to recoup their $8 million that they spent on him last summer, which I think is a pretty fair price for an experienced 29-year-old Premier League midfielder. Then you're looking at from the player's perspective. Aston Villa, Leeds United, West Ham. West Ham, I was very impressed with towards the end of last season. Played really good football, got up the table. But then you would think if they're bringing James McCarthy in, that would lead you to believe that they might be offloading Declan Rice. He's going to be in there playing with Such. Like, West Ham could be a good move. I just don't know if the David Moyes thing is always in the back of my mind, thinking, is this going to go all tits up at some stage, Then you're looking at Aston Villa. I just think Aston Villa are just so flaky still. I'm just concerned. I think they're going to be in another relegation battle next season. If I'm James McCarthy, I want to go play for Marcelo Bielsa, absolutely. And I know Leeds might be struggling next season, and it depends on who they sign and what money they have there to sign players. But just the draw of playing for one of the most highly rated coaches in world football, the man who's highly regarded by Pep Guardiola and Klopp and the whole lot of them. I think that would be fascinating for a player of James McCarthy's abilities, and I think he would suit Bielsa team. So look, I couldn't say for definite which club he's going to go to, because it seems that there's so many interested in him. But if Crystal Palace want to offload him, he's got some good suitors there. And I think West Ham and Leeds will be good moves. Aston Villa, I'm not so sure about.
Definitely gone from Crystal Palace out of 10?
I've been hearing this for a few weeks now, so I'd say 9 out of 10.
Steve-O, good stuff. That's the end of this week's Deal or No Deal. Today's Deal or No Deal.
I signed for them after the Euros, and after my first day's training, I was driving home. I was actually thinking, regretting it. What have I done? I walked into a circus.
It's amazing, isn't it?